Hey, everybody, welcome to our weekly ecosystem office hours call. And now that I'm actually off mute, I am your host, Jinx. Uh, and we are joined, as always, by the best and brightest in the Pocket ecosystem. And I gotta say, it's really nice to see all the faces of the folks that I deal with on a daily basis here for this call, because it really does reflect the best and brightest in the ecosystem. We are going to start things off with our protocol and migration update with Fred. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you, Jinx. I'll just start off this week by thanking everyone in the community who's been an active participant in the migration and has been playing on beta testnet and even helping with some things on mainnet. This truly is an open source project, and it does take a community of individuals to move the needle forward. So thank you all for everyone who's been participating. And if you haven't yet, please do get involved. Go through the claiming process on beta. Give us some feedback on the documents. It is much appreciated, and we are iterating on it as fast as we can to get everyone ready for June 3rd. With that being said, the main focus for Shannon is really just we're trying to do basically a dry run of mainnet in beta testnet. So what that means is we're going to actually move some of our production traffic to beta testnet when we can see that all of the apps, services, suppliers, etc. are all in place. And this will give us a good indicator of how things are going to look when we get to mainnet. It is a really important step. If you haven't heard from me, you will be. And we're just looking to make sure that every piece of the puzzle is really in place on beta and that we can really smoothly transition into mainnet. With that, there's also been a bunch of feedback coming through on some of the guides and handbooks. Again, we're iterating on that and adding FAQ questions. I appreciate all the questions from the migration working group, and we're iterating on those as quickly as we can. And lastly, we've just been making some kind of final tweaks and adjustments to some of the claim tooling. Again, if you haven't gone through that process, please do, and this will give us some great feedback to improve that, to make it as seamless as we can. Moving on to path updates. I am pleased to announce that we are 100% traffic right now on Moors through Path. So for anybody who says that Path is not a production application, it is. We are running our entire workload on top of Moors today. I'm actually going to pull out a presentation. I forgot to let you know, Jinx. I was putting it together literally up to the minute of the call that we'll go over here shortly, just talking about some of the numbers and some of the improvements from Path. But with that, again, we're looking to get Path running on beta testnet to prove out that everything Shannon related works with Path nicely. And we've just been working through a bunch of issues with Grove specific billing pipeline, as well as making some final QoS adjustments prior to throwing the lever to 100%. So that's really where the focus on Path has been. Lastly, just other updates. We're really looking for, docs, playbooks, enhancements, FAQs, anything there that you want to contribute that you feel like isn't there. That's super, super helpful. And we're going to continue kind of leaning on you all to provide some outside-in onboarding for the community. And we'll continue to update those docs, get your PR, get your internet points on GitHub for helping out with those. That's everything I got.
Beautiful. Are you wanting to do that presentation?
Sure, if the agenda's clear, I was going to let you roll through. I don't want to butt in.
Yeah, might as well do it now. We've got Pocket Scan again after that, and I like to let them have as much time as possible, given the technical stuff they cover.
Cool. This is very short. It should be 5 minutes. So here, let me make sure my mic doesn't cut out this time when I when I share my screen here.
Or that you're not muted.
Yeah, that too. That would be bad. Okay, is everyone able to hear me, and are you able to see a Google slide?
Check, we can hear you, and I see the slide.
Awesome. All right, so I really quickly prepared this. We've been running some numbers like up to the final minute on comparing what we call the portal middleware and Path. The portal as a whole, when we talk about Grove's kind of platform, is a suite of a bunch of products. There's a lot of different pieces of the puzzle when we talk about the portal. So that would be everything from our data pipelines, our billing pipelines, our front end. Those things are not what at the end of the day actually just processes the request. That's what gives users the access point. But the part that actually processes the request, looks at quality, et cetera, is middleware, and Path does all of those same things. So just setting the stage there. How was this analysis conducted? It was started, like I said, on May 6th. That's when we really cranked up mirroring to a substantial rate of 50% or more. Up to May 20th, we compared service quality at both the gateway and the individual service levels. And then I'm just going to put out some disclaimers and notes. Trusting the middleware metrics is probably not a 100% thing. I don't do it. So if you're looking at these and you want to do that, you can do so at your own risk. We've known that this is a black hole for us, and that's one of the reasons why we're really excited to be on Path. We're really excited to get in front of you all because we're really proud of the metrics pipeline and work. Lastly, Path is still new and maturing. This is not its final form. Already in the PR and code pipeline is the new judge module, which is QoS related. And we're very hopeful and have some preliminary numbers that will vastly increase the quality of service. Okay, I'm going to move on. All right, so the numbers at a high level, the good. Quality overall is up 1.5%. Am I cutting in and out? Or is it somebody else?
I still hear you just fine.
Okay. All right. I'm just seeing people in the chat saying my mic isn't working. I'm moving it closer to me in case it's not picking up.
Oh, okay. They're referencing Sloppy Joe, who wasn't muted.
Got it. All right. So quality on average is up 1.68%, with an overall success rate of 87%. This is not where we want it to be, but the callouts here are some substantial gains on several chains. Again, and we're comparing, a less than satisfactory metric to a metric that we're very confident is true. So 1.6% on, fairy tales and butterflies is still pretty good. And then the chains that we see some really substantial improvement on are Solana, Kava, and Frax. The other thing to note here is that the Path has teeth. So if you are doing the wrong thing, if you are a bad actor, you will never get relays again if you're being naughty. So I encourage any bad actors out there to play the game correctly. Otherwise, Path will filter you out and you will not get relays. Middleware is, I'll say, okay at doing that. The other big metric here is the P99 latency is down almost 1,500 milliseconds on average. And there are 14 services that we've seen a decrease in 1,000 ms or 1 second or greater. So this is huge. This is really allowing for customers to have fast RPCs. So that's awesome. Other callouts about Path: the code is maintainable and scalable, and Path is publicly available to you today, right now. All you have to do is go to GitHub, pull it down, and start playing. So this is a major improvement. Middleware is not available to anyone. So from here on out, if anyone wants to know what code Grove is running, all they have to do is look at buildwithgrove/path on GitHub, and that is what we are running locally. So there should be no questions. Things that need improvement, just really quickly, is some chains need love, and specifically those with custom interfaces. So POKT and Radix have pretty low success rates, especially when it comes around like archival retrieval data for POKT. That has been a nagging problem. I think a lot of people just automatically stake POKT without realizing that the service expectation is archival. Again, Path has a lot of teeth on it now, so if you're failing those checks, expect to not get relays for that chain. 99% success or above is still our North Star, and I'm sure there are a bunch of people who are expecting bigger and flashier numbers here, but that's just not the case today. And again, we're comparing a fairy tale number to something that we concretely can measure and say, this is true, this is reality. I have a full report. I'm putting some finishing touches on it. But I'll quickly just kind of flash it on the screen, and this will be linked in the slide deck. The slide deck is publicly available. I'll copy paste it in just a second, but you can kind of see some of the big call outs. Our latency, just average latency is very, very comparable. And again, our P95 is definitely lower, and our P99 is massively improved. And then overarchingly on success rates across the board, you can see some of our laggards and some of our biggest gainers over the same amount of time. That is it.
Beautiful. Thanks, Fred. That's all good stuff to know. I think I'll probably have some more questions after the call for some other technical implementation stuff, but it's great to see the progress that's being made here. Evos another said, how are you saying path has great results if status.grove.city most of the time shows status degraded and error with high latency?
Yeah, this is related to the recent protocol changes with the parameter on the number of nodes per session being 5. So most of these chains are staked for 2 or 3 applications, which means that they have 10 to 15 nodes to select from. Previously, they had 24 to select from. The odds of getting a good node are much higher if you have a larger pool to select from. The problem is that it's a careful balance of if that number is too big, the number of nodes to form a session, then we can't form a session, so the service is completely unavailable. If it's too small, the odds of getting a session that is all bad nodes or poor quality nodes is much higher. So we are working on carefully rebalancing that number and ensuring that 1, we have a stable uptime, and 2, we are able to provide a high quality service with that uptime. The plan here is to work with new parameters, and I'm not being sniped. This is my last comment that I'm going to make on this because I feel like I'm being sniped. The final comment here is that in Shannon, we want to have 2 parameters. 1, that is the number of nodes to form a session, which from our opinion should be 1. If there is at least 1 node on the network for a service, we should be able to form a session and send that node relays. On the other end, the max number of nodes per session, in our opinion, should be infinity. We want to have every single node available to us at all times, and from there, we will make the selections on which ones we want to use. That's the plan.
And I'll follow up here and confirm that we've been in active conversation with Grove around balancing and testing nodes per session and how to appropriately set those parameters to get the best performance out of the network at all times. So, and also other deeply plugged in analysts. Ramiro has also been part of those conversations. So, big fan of that, and we are going to work to make sure that those are correctly balanced. On the foundation side of the updates, I do want to make sure that folks see the May Foundation update that's published on the forum. You can head on over there and check that out. And B, we are coordinating to spin up as many new validators as possible in short order after the Shannon launch. That's something that we're coordinating in the migration working group. For anyone who is not familiar, validators in Shannon are a completely separate entity from servicers. And so they cannot be both. And if you want to be a validator in Shannon, you have to consciously stake as a validator. So we are collecting the folks who are running validators now on Morse Network who are interested in also being validators on Shannon. That is a thread in the Migration Working Group channel. Please check in over there if you are interested in staking as a validator shortly after Shannon goes live. And with that, I'm going to hand things over to the Pocket Scan folks to tell us some more.
Hello, everyone. Today, Julio will be presenting the setup side of the provider for the Igniter application. So he's your guide today. Julio.
Hey, hi everyone. Yeah, as Jorge said, we wanted to share a little bit of what does it take to set up a provider. Just give me a minute to share my screen, please. So last week we saw a little bit of um, what the staking process looked like for an end user, but we didn't see anything from what's this provider service. This is the tool that would be used by node runners that want to participate in this ecosystem. Um, so essentially, what we want to show today is a little bit of what it takes to set this up. That's one thing, at least from the configuration perspective. There is still some work being done in general in the user interface. But the other thing that we're looking for here, if anybody's willing to, is some kind of feedback, because the way things work in Shannon are slightly different in terms of what is it that you're staking. Like when you stake something in Morse, you have a node which has a particular address, and that's it. Here you will have a relay miner that is serving for multiple wallets, and each service it provides um, can have one or more addresses and things like that. So this said, we start by configuring like a bunch of general settings that are like a name that we can use to brand. There are other things that we're going to be adding for branding here, absolutely. But right now it's still only the absolute necessary. This is the app identity. By the app identity, we mean the unique identifier that is going to be available in the governance site. Like when you register your application, you need to match with this ID. Um, so you can choose the network, the chain that you're going to be serving, um, beta, mainnet, or alpha. Right now, beta is what we're going to be deploying. Um, This requires a Shannon API. The reason is RESTful API in this case. The reason is because the services, when we're configuring them, when we're asking for parameters, we use the RESTful API to look for that information. So you can configure a particular fee, like a default fee that you're going to charge for. And this is related to staking. The This is the default fee, and you will see more as we move forward. But the general idea here is that in Shannon you're able to configure your rev share by service, not a single rev share. So you can set this one up, like let's say, well, I'm going to charge something like 20%, and that's it. So also we allow to configure the delegator rewards address, like where will your rewards be routed to, and then obviously some settings about the domain where you're serving from. This is going to become useful for configuring services. So here we go with the services. This is what I mean by services. Like all the services now are configured on chain. So let's say we want to support AVAX or something like that. So I search by service ID, and I get some information about the service, like who owns this and the cost of compute units. But now by default, my rev share for this service is automatically assumed to be my default. That's what I meant. But if I wanted to charge more for this chain, because for this service, because it's probably heavier or anything like that, let's say I want to charge 25, I can do that. And then there is the concept of protocols. When I am serving services can have multiple protocols now in Shannon, which is pretty cool. So by protocols, it means like you have Ethereum. Think about it, you have Ethereum, you might be serving WebSockets and RESTful or RPC. So you can choose this. The other thing that you can do here is specify the URL. And this is a little bit complex, maybe because we had like this question of the chicken and egg, but we wanted to make this very configurable. And this is what I mean by chicken and egg. Right now I'm talking about a service, but here I need to consider like if I have multiple relay miners across the world, their region and things like that, which we're gonna get to configure that in a moment. Um, but we wanted to start with the services because relay, like our address groups require the services first. So let me try to explain this, and if anybody has questions, please feel free to interrupt and just ask me. But the general idea here is that you can set up, when you set up a service, you need to point it to your relay miner. Let's say you have a relay miner in North America, um, or in this case, it's hard coded for the help us to Africa South, and it's called RM01. What I can do is provide patterns in my service URL, and we are going to automatically reconstruct this URL when you are doing the staking. So now you can kind of configure these things and say, well, my actual address is my domain. This is the chain. This is the protocol. This is the relay miner name, and or the identifier that I wanted to give it just for configuration purposes. And this is the region where it is. So when you establish this pattern, your stakes will automatically be calculated to this address. Hopefully this makes sense. Please let me know, because I think this is probably just the most complex part about the whole setup. Okay, so no questions there. So I'm gonna leave it for the default. That's okay. I just wanted to show that, and let's move on. Obviously, you can have more than one of these. Like I said earlier, you might be supporting the JSON RPC plus the WebSockets, and that's absolutely possible for one single service. Let's say Ethereum or something like that. So address groups is the concept that we created that most likely aligns with the concept of a relay miner, which is the actual physical entity server that you're going to have. And the general idea here is that it's relatively simple to configure, but you need to be mindful, like I'm giving it this name, let's say Relay Miner 1. I have it in this particular region. And the reason is that right now in Shannon, you can have only one relay miner. A relay miner needs to be attached to one particular region. You cannot have like service all over the world. So you can specify a particular domain if you have a different one for that one. And now you can choose like which services to support. If we had more, we can have up to 8 per relay miner. And here you can see the example where the URLs got actually recalculated to the actual values. If I change the values, the URLs will be effectively different. So, so this is only useful for when somebody comes to the stake. We need to provide this information for the clients trying to stake, and that's the reason we have to configure all these things. Any questions to this point? Oh, good. Okay. So the other thing here is like the delegators. We want to give, obviously, providers the freedom to choose who they want to work with. They're not necessarily mandated to work with everyone. Then that makes sense. Even though this is kind of permissionless in a way that you don't need to make a deal before somebody has to authorize you. You just need to be like, you just accept the public keys that you want to. At this point, we're not able to manually add more, but obviously we're going to support that in the upcoming release. The general idea here is that we pull this information from the governance repository. That's the general idea here. Like we show you, hey, these are the vetted ones, and you can pick to choose from them, or maybe you can just configure your own internal stuff for testing or do that. So you can choose as many as you want. Right now, there's only one in this environment, but the general idea is that eventually there are going to be at least 2 or 3 different options for people to work with. And with that, pretty much that's it. That's all you need to actually get this done. Like I said, there's going to be a little bit more details here that we want to add, like branding, legal stuff that we can configure, add, and update later. But pretty much this is what is required to set this up. Hopefully this was helpful. And what we're hoping for is if anybody has a different perspective on the way we are approaching this type of configurations, we're really happy to get feedback.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir. Anybody have questions around the usage of this tool? Well, that sounds easy peasy. Everybody keep in mind, this is an open source tool that has been sponsored by the foundation to be created. So you are welcome and encouraged to go up and dig into the repository, to check out how things work, to look at how you might be able to integrate that for your own usage, for your own node running service. We will be opening up an Igniter channel in our Discord so that questions specifically about that implementation can be asked there, and or contributions made, anything along that line. And with that, we have gotten past our scheduled agenda for the day, I believe. So we'll open it up to questions. You see Jorge typing in chat. Oh, today we will have the first release of Igniter and testnet beta. Beautiful.
One little thing about Sooth. We got the release from Chrome, and Firefox is pending for approval for them. The current release of Sooth Bowl in Chrome allow anyone to create Shannon wallets and do the migration of wallets. So you can already try that.
Beautiful.
This is the release of what was presented on the previous community call.
And of course, to clarify there, the snapshot of state for Morse won't be happening until the morning of the cutover. So that would be when all the migrations occur. But you'll be able to see the functionality in the Sooth wallet. Any other questions? Always happy to give you all some of your day back. All right. Well, I do want to say thanks again to all of the node runners and other participants who have made our migration working group such a productive and active channel. We have seen some significant contributions to the migration workflow and the documentation at large by some folks who are outside of the core development group. Especially want to give a shout out to Breezy and Jorge, who have done a lot of analysis and made some pretty substantive contributions to the migration process. And if you're not in there and you are running nodes, then y'all need to get in there like super fast. A lot of catching up to do, and we are at 13 days to cut over, so no time to mess about. Time to get ready. We got what looks like a last comment coming in from Jorge. I do want to say next week, as we are approaching the final cutover, we are going to have a couple of different presentations around migration tooling, including wallet migrations outside of Sooth, and some final Q&A session with folks around anything and everything related to migration. So please make sure you are there for that. Jorge also mentioned today I'm opening a PR for Pocket Roll to allow users to migrate accounts in bulk, which will be an important part of the process. Close to Friday, hopefully the same, but for suppliers, migration by output addresses. Yep, this is some of the big things that we were talking about. There is a ton of work going on from everyone in the ecosystem, including Olshansky and Fred and Art and all of the node runners who have been contributing. I cannot even it's impossible to overstate how much effort has been put into making sure that this migration is as smooth and well executed as possible. So again, big shout out to everyone who's participating. Evo Sunother asks, when are PGAT teams launching? They'll be launching after Shannon. All of them are building their products on the Shannon testnet, so they do need Shannon mainnet to be live and ready for them to execute. Crypto, who is on this call, is our principal from DevDAO, and I'm particularly excited about seeing them launch, given that they really fit dead into what we see for our growth strategy for DevRel within the ecosystem. So very, very much looking forward to that. And I see that Breezy's typing. Oh, thanks, Fred. Fred dropped the link for the slides from the Path versus Middleware presentation earlier, so that will be available at that link. If you are watching this call after the fact, you can just go up into the chat channel for the community calls to find that link and resource. Breezy asked, are the PGAT teams responsible for their own products marketing or PNF? Well, they're responsible for their own product marketing, but it's all very much in partnership with PNF. And you will see significant communications from the main Pocket Twitter account and other Pocket marketing channels helping to boost their launches as much as possible. We very much want to put them out there, not just to help them get started, given that each of them is effectively their own startup, and we want to support that as graduates of our first accelerator, but also because they are examples of what's possible on Shannon that are well outside of the normal use cases that we've all seen up to now. For example, use cases around LLM inference and models and training and using AI through Pocket. So we will very much be doing our best to blow them up. And I is shouting out a BTC all-time high. Yeah, it's nice to see the markets at large doing their thing. We've got some green candles with Pocket today. That's always nice to see. And perhaps something that we don't see enough of. All right. Well, on that note, I guess we're going to wrap it here. We will see all of y'all same time, same channel next week. Don't miss it. We are on the countdown to Shannon. Thanks, y'all.